Hi everyone, we're going to express each complex number in polar form and give angle measures to the nearest degree when necessary. Before we get started, let's go over this one more time. This length here is your A value, and that equals R cosine of theta. And your B value is your vertical part. This point here is called your AB, which is Z, which is going to equal your R theta. So that in red, R theta. Now for our R here, that's the length of the arrow, and we want it to be positive. That's why they have the absolute value. So the absolute value of Z equals square root of A squared plus B squared. And we're always going to take the positive. All right? So the angle is called the polar angle of V. So that's going to be the polar angle of Z for this. Okay. The reason you need to be careful with your R, remember this equals your R, is you have to make sure you know what quadrant you're in, because sometimes we'll have to add 180 or subtract 180 to get in the right quadrant if our R has to be positive. So we'll go ahead and get started. We're also going to write our answers in IB format, which is R cis of angle. And that just means R cosine of theta plus R, I'm just going to put the R outside, I sine of theta. So it's just a shorthand way of writing this. Okay, so we'll get started for the first one. So the first one basically is really -7 plus 0I. So in the first one, A is -7 and B is 0. And if you looked at it on a graph, that just means your X is like, whoops, I should move it over here. Your X is -7 and your Y is 0. So there's that point right there. Let's stretch that out. All right. For the imaginary, and this would be your imaginary axis, and this would be your real axis. So Y is your imaginary. Now, let's find our Z. So we're going to let R equal absolute value of -7, which equals, square root of -7 squared plus 0 squared. And that just equals 7. Remember, we always have to have this positive. And we're also, where are we at? We're right here. So this is going to help you with the angle. So basically, we don't need to do tan. Normally, we would do tan of theta equals 0 over -7, which just equals 0. But if you have something with the 0 in it, like here, you just can tell that this is 180 degrees. So you don't really need to do this part if you know this. So our final answer is just going to be, if you write it in R theta, it would be -7, 180 degrees. But we're going to write it as 7 cis of 180 degrees. Oh, this is supposed to be +7. All right. Now we'll go a little faster on the others. So basically we have R equals absolute value of 2 square root of 3 plus 2I. So this equals the square root and positive again, because we want the positive length. The length can't be negative. So 2 square root of 3 squared plus 2 squared. And this is just going to equal 4. All right, your angle is tan inverse of y over x. So this is your y and this is your x. So you get 2 divided by 2 square root of 3 So inverse tan of 1 divided by square root of 3. And that equals 30 degrees. And since we're in quadrant 1 here, we can keep this. We don't have to add or subtract. So our answer in polar coordinates would be 4, 30 degrees. But in polar form, it's going to be 4 cis of 30 degrees. Okay, next one. We have R equals, and if you look at this, this is positive, this is negative. So where X is positive and Y is negative, that's in quadrant 4. So keep that in mind, because we have to have our R positive. Absolute value of 3 minus 4i equals square root of 3 squared plus negative 4 squared, and that equals 5. And then this one we have to give angle measurements to nearest degree. So we have tan inverse of negative 4 divided by 3, which equals negative 53 degrees. All right, negative 53 degrees. What we want to do, since our R is positive, is take 360 minus 53 degrees. So our angle is going to be 360 degrees minus 53 degrees, which gives us 307 degrees, 307 degrees. So you would write this as 5 cis of 307 degrees. And finally, the last one, we're going to be a little easier because we're in quadrant 1. And so that one's going to be R equals absolute value of 5 plus 12i equals the square root of 5 squared plus 12 squared, which equals 13. That's just one of your Pythagorean triples. Inverse tan of 12 divided by 5 is approximately 67 degrees, which is in quadrant 1. So we have 13 cis of, let's see, 300, whoops, I'm in the wrong one, 13 cis of 67 degrees. And that's it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.